the sannyas candidates. And over to Maharaj now, please. The topic for today is Shiksha Gurus in Iskcon.
Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. I think we'll allow a few more minutes because
Recording in progress.
obviously not everyone has come so far.
Валнана Махарадж, Хари Кришна, поклоны примите. А могли бы вы мне переслать книжку за месяц, немецкий язык? Вы сказали, что она у вас есть, и вы можете дать, как мне ее получить.
Немецкий язык. Вы говорите немецкий язык?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, хорошо. Может поехать Германия. И Валмики будет слышава.
Слушать.
No, слышать. Счастливый.
Maharaj, he is asking a book, 20 days for studying English, German language. He is asking where it's possible to take this book.
Amazon.
Amazon.
India. Tavreed, India at the Kaniga. Loy Bazaar. Bihari Lal. Okay, so let's begin now by offering our obeisances. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tadamane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shnivadi Paskyadyade Satarne. So thank you for coming. We reserve the topic that produces fireworks for the last, because I don't think there's any topic in our society which is produces more of an emotional response when we talk about the guru issue within our society. That probably everyone has their own feelings and ideas about it, and I'll try and share what mine are, with the idea not this is the definitive conclusion of what Shiksha Diksha Gurus are in Iskcon, but this is just my understanding so far, and I must say that I expect in the course of time it'll become clearer. But it's a topic, as it says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, controversial topics should not be avoided, because by discussing them, it makes the mind more clear and stronger. And of course, my references will be from Srila Prabhupada, Tarko Apratishta Shudya Vibhina, Savari Shirya Syanabhina, Dharmasya Tattvam Nihitam Guhayam, Ahajno Yena Katha Sapanta. If we go on arguing, that's all right. Tarka Apratishta. But that can continuously go on practically forever. Although we may come to higher understandings by discussing things from the point of view of my conception or my perception, there may not be any end to the discussion. Shruti Vibhina, and in the Shruti, in the scriptures, there are many different viewpoints, because the scriptures are meant for different audiences. Savari Shirya Syanabhinam, and even amongst the great sages, whether it be Vashishta Muni, or it be Vyasadeva, or Patanjali, or whoever. There are also different viewpoints. Therefore, dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam ahajna yena katha sapanta. Therefore, one should try to hear, understand what is in the heart of a self-realized person. Because we have to choose a leader, we have to choose an authority as our guide. As Prabhupada said, for those in the mode of ignorance, they choose Ravana or Hiranyakashipu as their guide, as their leader. For those in the mode of passion, they may choose Bill Gates or some industrialist as their leader. And for those in the mode of goodness, they may choose an environmentalist or a philanthropist as their leader. And for those who are transcendentalists, they have to choose a pure devotee as their leader. In a conversation with Professor Kataski, when Srila Prabhupada was visiting Russia, Moscow, Professor Kataski would not agree to any of the philosophy that Srila Prabhupada was putting forward, whether it be of the existence of the soul, or even when Prabhupada came to the point of an ashram. So finally, Srila Prabhupada said that actually we cannot disagree on one point, is that your philosophy and our philosophy are the same. Your philosophy is that you've chosen Lenin as your leader, and our philosophy is that we've chosen Krishna as our leader. So wherever Lenin is going, that's where you'll go, and wherever Krishna goes, that's where we'll go, because we follow the leader. Therefore, we have to understand what is the methodology of arriving at our goal. First of all, we have to set our goal, that our goal is to become a pure devotee. To somehow or another elevate our consciousness from pure spiritual knowledge given to us in our Guru Sadhana Shastra, to assimilate that knowledge and be able to see it with our own eyes, right before us, to develop our buddhi, our intelligence, so we can see what's being described. If we don't see what's being described, then we should understand that we have to purify ourselves and investigate further until we actually see what's being explained to us. Or as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Askaryavach pashati kaschirenam, Askaryavach padati dhataiva chanya, Askaryavach chanya anit shunoti, Shidvatninam vedana chaiva kaschit. So some look on the soul as amazing, some hear of the soul as amazing, some speak of the soul as amazing, and others, even after hearing about the soul, cannot understand him at all. So we have to be able to see through the eyes of Scripture. And then, when we apply that within our lives, to actually experience by getting Krishna's mercy. Tesham sadatam yuktanam, bhajantam pratipurvakam, vidami buddhiyogam tam, yena mam upyanti te. For those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. So Didami Buddhi Yogam Tam, it's ultimately Krishna who will either reveal himself to us or will hide himself to us, from us. And the criteria is be constantly engaged in his service with love and enthusiasm. So these points are not something to become antagonistic about. It's to work together to understand them as clearly and as deeply as possible, so that we can apply them to do only two things: become more steady in devotional service with more enthusiasm and love. If our philosophy, or what we believe, or what we understand, doesn't encourage us in devotional service to perform more of it and more steadily, and doesn't invoke a sense of enthusiasm and love for Krishna and for his devotees and for the process of devotional service, then our philosophy is not accurate. The entire Bhagavad Gita was spoken to by Arjuna to encourage him to engage in devotional service out of love for Krishna and to do what would be beneficial for all living entities. Now, because of the nature of the conditioned life, it is not possible for a conditioned soul to understand everything clearly, but it's possible for the conditioned soul to understand the process by which we can understand things clearly, according to our level. So that's more important than thinking that to reach a conclusion, because to reach a conclusion when we're in the darkness of the material energy is inappropriate. To understand the process by which we can come to gradually understand the conclusion more clearly, that's certainly within our realm of ability and within our realm of influence. So that's what this presentation is meant for, not to say that this is the conclusion, that I know what the conclusion is, but I do know that whatever our path towards the conclusion should encourage us more in devotional service and should deepen our love for Krishna and for his representatives and for the devotees, and should inspire us to help the innocent come to the platform of understanding their relationship with Krishna and therefore engage in his service and develop enthusiasm for it. And at the same time, to understand who is not capable and willing to take to the process of devotional service and is beyond our influence to inspire them to do so, and therefore not become entangled in unnecessarily arguments with them, although we may try to argue with them sometimes if it will help innocent people understand more clearly what the actual science of devotional service is, but we don't argue with people who are who don't want to listen to us. That's one of the offenses against the holy name. Nor do we try to associate intimately with those who are not serious about the process of devotional service. In any case, with that aim in mind, that this presentation hopefully will encourage us in our service to become more independently thoughtful, to depend upon Krishna, and at the same time understand the complexities of this particular subject matter, and therefore not become disappointed or disillusioned or regretful or frustrated or impatient for our society to adopt a clear path forward so that our discussions on the subject matter and our implementation of it are always create unity in the diversity that they're meant for. And therefore, the sense of enthusiasm for the service of either Shiksha or Diksha Guru, and the clear understanding of how it applies to us personally, so we can apply it within our lives, and therefore always be enthusiastic and always be encouraged in our service. So let me begin by sharing the screen, because I wanted to, from Chaitanya Charitamrita, see what our Acharya, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, has said about the initiating and the Shiksha Guru, instructing gurus. Can everyone see this? The screen there, it says Acharyamam Vijaniyam.
Yes, Maharaj.
Let me just try and get into view here. Here we go. So this is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the first chapter about spiritual masters. And this is text number 46. Acharyamam Vijaniyam Navamanyate Karichit, Namartya Budya Suyeta, Sarvadeva Mayoguru. One should know the Acharya is myself and never disrespect him in any way. One should not envy him, thinking him as an ordinary man, for he is the representative of all the demigods. So Krishna is not using, this is Krishna speaking to Uddhava, and he's not using the word guru, he's using the word acharya. But here in the purport, Prabhupada explains that acharya can also be applied to the spiritual master. So I'm going to read this slowly and just comment on it, and then I'll read the next verse also. And then we'll... This is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 11:17-27, spoken by Lord Krishna when he was questioned by Uddhava regarding the four social and spiritual orders of life. The Lord was specifically instructing how a brahmachari should behave under the care of a spiritual master. A spiritual master is not an enjoyer of facilities offered by his disciples. He is like a parent. Without the attentive service of his parents, the child cannot grow to manhood. Similarly, without the care of the spiritual master, one cannot rise to the plane of transcendental knowledge. So the spiritual master is also called Acharya, or a transcendental professor of spiritual science. The Manu Samhita 2:140 explains the duties of an Acharya, describing that a bona fide spiritual master accepts charge of the disciples, teaches them the Vedic knowledge with all its intricacies, gives them their second birth. The ceremony performed to initiate a disciple into the study of spiritual science is called Upaniti, or the function that brings one nearer to the spiritual master. One who cannot be brought nearer to a spiritual master cannot have a sacred thread, and thus he is indicated to be a Shudra. The sacred threads on the body of a Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya is a symbol of initiation by the spiritual master. It is worth nothing if one merely to boast of high parentage. The duty of the spiritual master is to initiate a disciple with the sacred thread ceremony, and after the samskar or purificatory process, the spiritual master actually begins to teach the disciple about the Vedas. A person born a Shudra is not barred from such a spiritual initiation, provided he is approved by the spiritual master. One who is duly authorized to award a disciple the right to be a Brahmin, if he finds him perfectly qualified. In the Vaya Purana, an Acharya is defined as one who knows the import of all Vedic literatures, abides by the rules and regulations, and teaches the disciple to act in the same way. So, initiation is the beginning, as the word implies. And at the time of initiation, as Prabhupada said, our main business, at least in our initiation, because we're not initiating people as Vaishyas or Brahmins or Kshatriyas, the sport. We're giving them initiation in order to confirm that they're actually the servants of Krishna. Therefore, at the time of initiation, we have a name change. And at that time, then the idea is that the disciple is supposed to give up the Vali concept and accept themselves as a servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. That they're connected now to Krishna through the disciple succession, and their actual identity is Krishna Das, the Dasi. And therefore they agree to at least try to make progress by following the instructions in disciple succession to realize their identity as Krishna Das or Krishna Dasi. Now, after initiation, as Prabhupada writes in the Nectar of Devotion, one thinks that his life has now become perfect, then the initiation had little value. Because initiation is simply to start the process by agreeing to be the servant of Krishna's servant, so that one can realize that one is Krishna's, the servant of the Krishna servant. And as I've said many times, that requires proper perspective, conviction, skill, and character. Without coming to the platform of pure spiritual character, one cannot realize Krishna. If you put the iron in the fire, then it gets hotter and hotter and hotter, and it eventually becomes like fire. So by the process of devotional service, one will actually gradually spiritualize one's senses, Takshi Krishna Namani, Nabravadrayam Indriyai, Seva Mukhe Jivado, Swayam Evas Paratida. By the process of devotional service, one becomes cleansed, Pavitram Apavitram Va, Sarvasa Topi Va, of both inside and outside. Cleanse of, what's the cleansing? Cleansing of our misgivings about being Krishna's eternal servant. Being carried away by Trividanarakasedam, Dwaram Nashitam Atmanaha, Kama Krodha Tata Lobas, Tasmat Etam Trayam Chaget. The three gates leading to hell, lust, anger, and greed. Every sane person should become free from these three gates because they lead to the degradation of self. Now, the process of devotional service is the process by which we become purified. As Krishna said in that previous verse, constantly engaging in devotional service with enthusiasm and love, then Krishna gives us the intelligence, the buddhi, by which we can gradually make progress in devotional service and obtain His full mercy. Because with buddhi, with the proper perspective, with the proper conviction, then we can remain steady in our convictions about Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and pass the test that Krishna will give us in order for Him to reveal Himself to us. We may know theoretically, and we may even know by experience something about Krishna consciousness. But Krishna and the material and His energies will give us further tests to further qualify us to get further revelations coming from Krishna and further absorption in the spiritual energy. No one goes back to the spiritual world without being qualified to do so. And that qualification means that we have to remain steady in spite of, as Krishna says, Dukeshu Vamanangmanak, Sukeshu Vigatas Priha, Vita Raga Vaya Krodha, Stiti Dhiramuni Uchite. One who is not disturbed in spite of the threefold miseries, who is not elated when there is happiness, and is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is known as the sage of steady mind. So this quality of tolerance, this quality of remaining fixed in Krishna consciousness in spite of either excessive happiness, excessive distress, is one of the main qualifications to obtain Krishna's mercy. When Bhrigu Muni wanted to, on behalf of the sages, wanted to find out who is actually the Supreme Person, he first of all visited his father, Lord Brahma, in Brahmaloka, and insulted him by not paying any respect. Lord Brahma became agitated, and he wanted to curse Bhrigu Muni, but Bhrigu Muni didn't wait for the curse. Instead, he went to Kailas and visited his brother, Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva came to embrace him, "Oh, brother, bye." And Bhrigu Muni said, "Stop, you disgusting, you're covered with ashes, you're ghostly haunted, don't touch me, bye." So Lord Shiva became greatly angry, picked up his trident, and was going to kill Bhrigu Muni, but Parvati saved him by falling at Lord Shiva's feet. And Bhrigu Muni took off to Swetadweep, where he entered the palace of Lord Vishnu, and there he went up directly to Lord Vishnu and kicked him in the chest. So Lord Vishnu, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, instead of becoming disturbed, he got down from his bed and he paid his respects to Brigham Muni and put Brigham Muni on his bed and started to massage his feet, telling Brigham Muni that I'm very sorry that I've committed an offense by not greeting you properly. I know that your lotus foot is as soft as a lotus flower, and that somehow or another you kicked my hard thunderbolt-like chest, and therefore I'm afraid that I might have been hurt, so let me massage your foot. Now that you've been so kind as to come to my Vaikuntha planet, please stay here and purify it. So Brigham Muni was completely shocked that with Lord Brahma he committed the offense within the mind. With Lord Shiva he had committed an offense by words. And with Lord Vishnu he committed the greatest offense by kicking him with his foot, a corporal offense. Lord Vishnu was so magnanimous, he not only didn't take it seriously, but he showed his affection for Brigham Muni. So that stage is possible for one to come to if one is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. If Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe, could not tolerate an offense, nor could Lord Shiva tolerate an offense, who is practically as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, what to speak of our poor selves? Only if we have the unalloyed mercy of Lord Vishnu, of Krishna, Vishayani Vinivartante Nirharasidehinam Rasavarjam Rasapyasya Param Drishvani Vartate. Only such an exalted person who is absorbed in Krishna consciousness, who has that higher taste, will not be disturbed in any circumstance. So that's the perfection we're trying to come to, and the Acharya is one who brings us to that perfection, because he's on that perfectional stage, and therefore he has the capacity to bring us all the way up to that stage. And as we'll find out, that it is not that simply by giving initiation that one is necessarily on that higher stage, but one certainly should be on a higher stage than the disciple, and therefore they can help the disciple come towards that higher stage, at least. Otherwise, there's no meaning to the initiation. So only out of his immense compassion does the personality of Godhead reveal himself as the spiritual master. Now, all of us are actually instruments for Krishna. Anyone who's performing devotional service is under the spiritual energy that Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Mahatmanas tumam bharata daivim prakritim ashritya vajnananya manaso gyatva bhuttidem abhyam. Those who are great souls are under the internal energy, the spiritual energy. Mahatmanas tumam bharata daivim prakritim ashritya. They've taken shelter of Krishna's Daivi Prakriti, the internal energy. Mahatmanas tumam bharata Daivi Prakriti vajnananya manas, because they're always engaged in service to me, in bhajan. And then Krishna says, Tesham sadadam yuktanam bhajantam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upyanti te. To those who are constantly devoted to worshiping me with love, Tesham sadatam yukta sadatam kirtiyantam mam, always engage in kirtan and glorify me. Sadatam kirtiyantam yatanchas shadrita vrata, with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So we're aspiring to become devotees, and as much as we're always engaged in kirtan and glorifying Krishna, and as much as we've developed determination, steadiness, and devotional service, and at the same time, as much as our humility has developed, as much as we realize Krishna, then naturally our innate humility should develop. when we see how wonderful and beautiful and unlimitedly great is Krishna, then naturally how can we not feel humble? And if we don't feel humble, then how can Krishna reveal himself to us? That's not possible. And therefore there's a process. Sadatam Kirtiyan Dhammam. Glorifying Krishna but with great enthusiasm. It's the same thing. Tesham Sadatam Yuktanam Bhajantam Pratipurvakam. Therefore, all of us were actually under the spiritual energy as much as we're engaged in devotional service with enthusiasm. That will be bestowed upon us by Krishna. It's not something that we earn or we can force or we can imitate. It's a gift of Krishna. Krishna knows our heart, and therefore its nectar devotion says, devotional service depends on nothing more than sincerity to understand and follow the process. But we're all spiritual masters, we're all guides at least, as much as we've understood the process. Then we can guide others. And for those who understand the process more than we have, then there's no competition. They'll teach us humility, enthusiasm, and steadiness in devotional service. It's a gift coming from Krishna. It's not a competition. Therefore, in the dealings of an acharya, there are no activities but those of transcendent loving service to the Lord. So this example is Srila Prabhupada, if we examine his life, that he had no other activity other than to teach three things. His disciples how to become steady in devotional service, how to become more enthusiastic about devotional service, and how to become more humble, how to follow the path of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Trinada Pisani Chena Praiva Sahishnuna. And therefore, Amani Namadi Dinena Kirtinek Sadahari. To recognize our fallen state is the beginning of becoming humble, to realize that although we're eternal spirit souls, transcendental and beyond the material modes of nature, still we're identifying with the illusory energy. And therefore one should feel humbled by that and take shelter of Krishna and his representatives to make progress. At the same time, learn tolerance, because we'll be tested in whatever knowledge we think we have by being put in circumstances where we'll have the opportunity to become distracted, or the possibility of becoming distracted by becoming intolerant. And then if we can pass those tests, be able to appreciate the wonderful qualities in the other devotees, and realize that whatever qualities we're displaying are not our qualities, but they're gifts of the spiritual energy being bestowed upon us because our simply willingness to act as an instrument for Krishna. Then we can make further progress. But for the actual acharya, there are no activities except for those of the transcendent loving service to the Lord. Now we can help others and bring them up to our level, but we cannot imitate an acharya until we actually become an acharya. Then that's not an imitation. You actually become a perfect instrument for Krishna. He is the Supreme Personality of Savor of Godhead. His worth to take shelter of such a steady devotee, what's called a Shraya Vigraha, or the manifestation or form of the Lord, for whom one must take shelter. So this we'll find out in terms of the qualification of a Diksha Guru, as Prabhupada will explain, as I'll point out later, that a Diksha Guru is generally of two qualities, two categories. One is the perfect representative of Srimati Radharani, directly under the spiritual energy, and the other is one who's a strict follower, who's come to the platform of liberation, like the four Kumaras, and is strictly following the instructions of the spiritual master. Therefore, in his activities, there's nothing material either, but he has not come to the perfectly realized stage of Prema Bhakti. He has not seen Krishna directly, but he's engaged in Krishna service constantly. Therefore, he has the steadiness and some of the enthusiasm, but not the ecstatic emotions of a pure devotee. If one poses himself into the Acharya, it does not have an attitude of servitorship to the Lord, he must consider an offender, and this offensive attitude disqualifies him from being an Acharya. The bona fide spiritual master always engages in unalloyed devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By this test, he is known to be a direct manifestation of the Lord and a genuine representative of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Such a spiritual master is known as Acharya Dev. Influenced by envious temperament and dissatisfied because of an attitude of sense gratification, mundaners criticize a real Acharya. So if we're looking for criticism, like Ramachandra Puri, then we can criticize even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, trying to find some fault. And if we're looking for the good qualities, then even an insignificant devotee, we can find good qualities and appreciate them. Such a spiritual master is known as, in fact, however, a bona fide Acharya is non-different from the personality of Godhead, and therefore to envy such an Acharya is to envy this personality of God himself. This will produce an effect subversive to transcendental transcendental realization. Now, Srila Prabhupada, for instance, he sometimes, as he said in one morning walk, he misquoted verses. He even may have fallen asleep at times, which were inappropriate. And apparently he got things wrong on the Monday platform. But as Prabhupada explained, that the perfection of the Acharya has to be understood as Bhakti Shashana, that his preaching of Krishna consciousness. For instance, when Srila Prabhupada he had a goal to encourage devotees to understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. But sometimes devotees were interested in mundane topics in their conversations to Srila Prabhupada, and therefore Srila Prabhupada, from my understanding, was careful not to agitate their minds by getting into an argument with them over relative subject matters. Therefore, sometimes it appeared that Prabhupada would agree on a subject with one devotees or one group of people and would have an opposite viewpoint in another circumstance. Because Prabhupada wanted to introduce Krishna consciousness, and therefore sometimes Prabhupada said they never went to the moon in one instance. Sometimes he said they went to Rahu. Sometimes they said that they went to the moon, but they went to the wrong place. So many different things Prabhupada said just about the moon landing. Because Prabhupada was not so much interested in whether or not they went to the moon, although generally he confirmed that they didn't go to the moon because the moon is populated. It's a heavenly planet, and therefore if they went there, they would have met people there. But they weren't qualified to go there because it's not so easy to go to the moon planet. In any case, probably in other conversations, he said they went to Rahu, or they went to some other place, the Nevada desert, whatever. Because probably his main preaching was not whether they went to the moon or not. His main preaching was that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we should perform devotional service, not argue over such insignificant topics. Because even if they went to the moon, what would they do there anyhow? The same problems are there: birth, death, old age, and disease. Unless they chanted Hare Krishna there and distributed prasadam, then they'd be wasting their time on the moon, as they're wasting their time here. So as mentioned previously, a disciple should always respect the spiritual master as a manifestation of Sri Krishna. But at the same time, one should always remember that a spiritual master is never authorized to imitate and transcendental pastimes to the Lord. All spiritual masters pose themselves as identical with Sri Krishna in every respect to exploit the sentiments of their disciples. For such impersonalists can only mislead their disciples. Their ultimate aim is to become one with the Lord. This is against the principles of the devotional cult. The real Vedic philosophy is the Chintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, which establishes everything to be simultaneously one and different in the personality of Godhead. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami confirms that this is the real position of a bona fide spiritual master, and says that one should always think of the spiritual master in terms of his intimate relationship with Mukunda, Sri Krishna. Srila Jiva Goswami, in his Bhakti Sandarbha, has clearly explained that a pure devotee's observation of the spiritual master, Lord Shiva, as being one with the personality of Godhead, exists in terms of their being very dear to the Lord, not identical with him in all respects. In other words, we never become Krishna, no matter how elevated in consciousness we become. We always remain as the particle. Ainanda natuna jakinkaram paditamam vishame bhavam do. We always remain a particle of Krishna's lotus feet. So, but if we become one with Krishna, the soul, and purpose, then Krishna takes over, and his activities are as good as Krishna's activities. They're spiritually one with Krishna. Srila Jiva Goswami in his Bhakti Sandarbha has clearly explained that a pure devotee's observation of the spiritual master and Lord Shiva as being one with the personality of Godhead exists in terms of their being very dear to the Lord, not identical with him in all respects. Following in the footsteps of Sri Raghunath Das Goswami and Srila Jiva Goswami, later acharyas like Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur have confirmed the same truths. In his prayers to the spiritual master, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur confirms that all the revealed scriptures except the spiritual master be identical with the personality of Godhead, because he is very dear and confidential servant of the Lord. So the Sakshat Hari is that he's one in harmony. He's gone through the Sharanagati. The last stage, he has no interest except for Krishna's interest, and he always feels himself meek and humble, being overwhelmed by the beauty of Krishna consciousness. Gaudiya Vaishnavas therefore worship Srila Gurudev, the spiritual master, in the light of his being the servitor of the personality of Godhead. In all the ancient literatures of devotional service, and the more recent songs of Srila Narottam Das Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and other unalloyed Vaishnavas, the spiritual master is always considered either one of the confidential servants of Srimati Radharani or a manifested representative of Sri Nityananda. Now, if we have an initiating guru, are we supposed to, are we obliged to consider that they're a confidential servant, associate of Srimati Radharani, or a manifested representative of Sri Nityananda? That may be, that's beyond our capacity, nor is that really necessarily in our interest to try to perceive things which are beyond our particular realm of understanding, at least not at the beginning. Prabhupada would explain that in the Nectar of Instruction, that at least a neophyte devotee does not have the capacity to judge who's on what level of devotional service, but you should try to see how a devotee is engaged in service so that he can follow in his footsteps and make progress in devotional service. If one comes to the second level or the first level of devotional service, more discrimination will be there, but without tesham sadatam yuktanam bhajantam priti purvakam, without learning from not only the initiating spiritual master, but also from all the other instructing spiritual devotees, instructing spiritual masters that we have, how to become more steady and more enthusiastic, more loving towards Krishna and his devotees and the innocent people and everyone, then Krishna will not give us the intelligence to make progress in devotional service. So this is the next verse about Shiksha Guru, because that's the subject matter, Diksha and Shiksha. So the Guru, as we hear, the initiating Guru, is generally accepted either as a confidential associate of Srimati Radharani or as a direct representative of Lord Nityananda. And there are others who are not on that level. They can also initiate because they're steadily engaged in devotional service. They're strict followers. Now there may be others which we can go into, but briefly, who are not either confidential associates of Srimati Radharani or manifested representatives of Lord Nityananda, or strict followers of their Guru in disciple succession, but are on the path by following to some degree, but haven't reached the either level of liberation, Madhyamadhikari, or Uttamadhikari. So here is in the about Shiksha, because after all, Divya Gyandato died yet, as Srila Rupa Goswami has explained, that initiation is to further our absorption and knowledge of devotional service. It has a purpose to prepare us to receive knowledge from the disciple succession and make progress towards realizing our eternal identity in relation to Krishna. So the Diksha implies within it the opening up of greater receptivity to Shiksha, either from the initiating spiritual master or for those who are also representing the disciple succession. And here Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami tells us about the Shiksha Guru. Shiksha Guru ke tajani Krishnera Sarup Antaryami Bhakta Shayasta Eduri Rup. Once you know the instructing spiritual master as to be the personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna manifests himself as the super soul and as the greatest devotee. Purport. Srila Krishnadas Das Goswami states that the instructing spiritual master is a bona fide representative of Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna himself teaches us as the instructing spiritual master from within and without. From within he teaches as Paramatma, our constant companion, and from without he teaches from the Bhagavad Gita as the instructing spiritual master. So Krishna is in our heart. He's teaching us as Paramatma, and from without he comes as the devotees who repeat the same message he's repeating from within the heart. But here Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has said that there are two kinds of instructing spiritual masters. One is the liberated person fully absorbed in meditation and devotional service, and the other is he who invokes the disciple's spiritual consciousness by means of relevant instructions. Thus, instructions in the science of devotion are differentiated in terms of the objective and subjective ways of understanding. In other words, one who is on the absolute platform, their various words are coming from the absolute platform. And if one is receptive to them, as in proportion to the receptivity, then one is able to realize the spiritual existence. Therefore, it's our duty to hear from the pure devotee, the acharya situated in transcendence, and try to hear as perfectly as possible so that we can repeat their words exactly as they're saying them, and therefore we get entrance into the spiritual realm of existence. But there are others who are following the Acharya, and therefore because they're sincerely following the Acharya, Vidami Buddhi Yogam Tam, Krishna has given intelligence, and because they've utilized that intelligence to pass certain tests, Tesham Eva Nukamparatam, they've gotten Krishna's mercy, and they've realized to some extent the transcendental realm. They've been elevated gradually from one mode of material nature to the next, and now they're going towards liberation. But Prabhupada writes that the Acharya, in the true sense of the term, was authorized to deliver Krishna, enriches the disciple with full spiritual knowledge, and thus awakens him to the activities of devotional service. So if we're talking about an Acharya, and Prabhupada equates that with the spiritual master, in the true sense of the term, then they must have full spiritual knowledge in order to awaken one to the activities of devotional service. It is not that one cannot be a spiritual initiating guru or a shiksha guru, and thus one has obtained the highest level of perfection, but there's going to be some limitation. That limitation should not be taken in a negative way, it should just be taken in an honest way. Otherwise one will be imitating and mislead one's followers and oneself. For that reason, to guard against such a possibility, or to help alleviate such a possibility, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada and our Srila Prabhupada wanted the devotees in Iskcon to form a GBC and work cooperatively to push on to spread Krishna consciousness. It's not distracting from the service of Guru, because the service of Guru, whether Shiksha or a Diksha Guru, is to give one as much understanding of the science of Krishna consciousness as one personally possesses. To show by example of steadiness in the process of sadhana bhakti and devotional service, and the enthusiasm, the love and care that comes along with spiritual advancement. But individually, we certainly won't be as effective as we would be if we work cooperatively. Or as Prabhupada will later explain, which we'll hopefully we'll have time to go over, that the intermediate, a neophyte devotee and an intermediate devotee can also accept disciples. The disciples should be on the same level, and it should be understood that they cannot help their followers due to insufficient guidance. So that should be recognized. It's not something we should hide or deny or whatever. We should understand that it is not so easy to be on the highest level of devotional service, to actually be in the spiritual world, on the pure spiritual platform. And therefore, it's necessary to work cooperatively so that we can work together, because as Srila Goswami will explain to us, that the intermediate devotees, or those who are working on the intermediate platform, their main symptom is cooperation under the direction of the Acharya. In other words, our society, even if it had Acharyas, even if it had devotees on the highest platform, they display the highest platform by always being completely in harmony with Srila Prabhupada's directions, who's our founder Acharya, and always creating the harmony, the atmosphere by which others would cooperate also under the Prabhupada's directions. So, whether one is a neophyte devotee, or a Madhyama Adhikari devotee, or the highest devotee on the highest platform, everyone works under the Acharya's directions. And that's what the GBC is meant for, to try to ascertain what are the Srila Prabhupada's directions for us. so that we can establish a practical missionary society which fulfills the direct instructions of Srila Prabhupada to create a world in which, as Prabhupada said, a cultural revolution by which everyone becomes convinced that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Our goal is very simple. We want to convince everyone, including ourselves, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that will make our society perfect. That will make the world perfect. Of course, that implies also that in order to do so, we have to follow the instructions of Krishna. Krishna does not reveal himself, and thus we agree to follow his instructions. In any case, as we find here, that we should recognize the possibility that there are two types of initiating and two types of instructing spiritual masters. One who is situated on the platform of transcendence and those who are not. And let me go to the next thing here. I'm not going to go over this to raise too many controversies. Now, what did Srila Prabhupada envision for our society? This is a letter to Rupanuga in 19... Actually, I don't think I have the date here. Yeah, April 1974. You're right about Sridhar Maharaj's genuineness, but in my opinion, he's the best of a lot. He's my old friend, and at least he executes the regular principles of devotional service. I do not wish to discuss about the activities of my godbrothers, but it's a fact they have no life for preaching work. All are satisfied with a place for residence in the name of a temple. They engage disciples to get foodstuff, they transcendental devices, and eat and sleep. They have no idea or brain how to broadcast the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. My Guru Maharaj used to lament many times for this reason, and he thought if one man at least had understood the principles of preaching, then his mission would achieve success. In the later days of my Guru Maharaj, he was very disgusted. Actually, he left this world earlier, otherwise he would have continued to live for more years. Now still he requested disciples to form a strong governing body, preaching the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's the job of the governing bodies, to further the preaching of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He never recommended anyone to be an acharya of the Gaudiya Math. But Sridhar Maharaj is responsible for disobeying this order of Guru Maharaj, and he and others who were already dead unnecessarily thought there must be one acharya. It's interesting. Sridhar Maharaj was a great devotee, very elevated Vaishnava, but he didn't have the same vision that Srila Prabhupada had. So it's interesting in the history that after Prabhupada's disappearance, the ones that Prabhupada had chosen to act as a Ridvik on his behalf went to Sridhar Maharaj, and they gave their ideas about how to act as a spiritual master. And therefore out of that was born the 11 acharyas, Zonal acharyas, which turned out to be not the best way of spreading Krishna consciousness. So here, Prabhupada is specifically saying that this idea of having acharyas, which were not unqualified, which were not on that level, was not a very good idea. But they went to the devotee, the Prabhupada's godbrother, who had that idea. So obviously there's going to be some problems. If Guru Maharaj could have seen someone who was qualified at that time to be an acharya, he would have mentioned. Because on the night before he passed away, he talked of so many things, but he never mentioned an acharya. His idea was an acharya was not to be nominated amongst the governing body. Interesting. He said openly, you make a GBC and conduct a mission. So his idea was amongst the members of GBC would come out successful and self-effulgent acharya would be automatically selected. So Sridhar Maharaj and his two associates, gentlemen, unauthorizingly selected one acharya and later proved to be a failure. The result is that now everyone is claiming to be acharya, even though they may be a Kanista Adhikari with no ability to preach. In any case, it is not that one has to become an acharya in order to preach. Let me just stop this for a second. It is not that one has to become an acharya in order to preach. Actually, one should not. One should understand that anyone who's following the acharya, that they're fully equipped to act as a representative as much as they follow. There's no need to be giving people titles, although we find that in the Siksa, in Srila Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the first principle is Guru Ashraya, to take shelter of a bona fide Guru, and then to receive instructions from him, and learn the process of devotional service. So Guru Ashraya has to be there, because it's one of our fundamental principles. But it should be properly understood in order to create harmony within our society. Then it's a question of how we take initiation and how it's applied. But this is not within our realm of influence. It's within our realm of concern. For instance, let me just get the sorry for delay, but I'm trying to figure out how to minimize this window. Okay. So here we have nectar of instruction. which we'll put on here. And this is text number 5. Now, in the previous verse, Prabhupada Sri Rupa Goswami says, Vidati pratigrinati uyamakiti pritsati until bhajayate shaiva shadvidam priti lakshanam. Offering gifts in charity and accepting charitable gifts, revealing one's mind in confidence and inquiring confidentially, accepting prasadam, offering prasadam, these are the 6 symptoms of love shared by one devotee and another. So Prabhupada explains that our advancement in devotional service depends upon our loving exchanges with the devotees, who are Krishna's direct representatives. Not just our superior devotees, but we serve our superior devotees by properly serving those who are equal to us and those who are subordinate to us or inferior in progress in devotional service. The words of the Acharya are supposed to be within our heart all the time. We're constant servants of the words of the Acharya, the directions. Therefore it says that he who thinks that Vaishnavas die, he reasons ill who thinks that Vaishnavas die, but thou art living still and sound, that Vaishnavas die to live, and living spread the holy name around. So our duty is to take Srila Prabhupada's instructions, and those who are following Srila Prabhupada strictly, put them in our heart and follow them in all our relationships with all living entities. And therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that that is our duty. Yari Deka Tari Kaha Krishna Upadesh Amara Agai Guruhana Tari Desh. Whoever we meet, we Yari Deka Tari Kaha Krishna Upadesh. It's simply our duty to help elevate them to Krishna consciousness. That everyone, their interest, their real interest, is to revive their relationship with Krishna. And that's our service to Krishna, is to help them do that. It doesn't matter who they are, what the circumstances are, that's our only duty. And that way, that's what it means to be guru. Now, in the nectar, so these 6 loving exchanges are the basis of our advancement in devotional service. That no one makes progress unless every relationship with the devotees is in the mood of love, of loving exchanges. Otherwise, it's considered to be offensive. Even if we see a Vaishnava, we don't feel gladdened by seeing them, that's considered to be offensive in itself. Although that's a very elevated platform of devotional service, still we should understand that the Vaishnavas, according to the Krishna book, are actually Krishna's representatives, those who are even practicing devotional service. So Prabhupada writes that that's the correct way of understanding devotional Bhagavad Gita, to understand it completely. That is, to try to assimilate it. Otherwise, there are so many different ways of seeing Bhagavad Gita or our Vedic literature, and we can argue about it, but we should humbly try to investigate it, try to come to an understanding of it. And if the understanding doesn't produce harmony, and it doesn't produce love and devotion and enthusiasm for service, then I think we have to keep on investigating, go deeper into the instructions of Srila Prabhupada, because that's what he came to do, is to encourage everyone and create a unity and diversity. So the Prabhupada gives the criteria of being an Uttama Adhikari devotee. He says when one fully engages in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, he gradually realizes his own spiritual identity. Now, previously Prabhupada has explained a very simplified version of the symptoms of a pure devotee, where he said he's always engaged in chanting the holy name. So that always is quite a qualifier. It is not that anyone who just chants Hare Krishna is a pure devotee, but one who's always chanting Hare Krishna with love and attention. He's always strictly following all the rules and regulations. Well, that's quite a feat. One has to be completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness to even know what the rules and regulations are. And always thinking of how to spread Krishna consciousness. Now that absorption and that burning desire to give Krishna consciousness to others is not so easily acquired. It has to be developed. So unless one faithfully chants the Hare Krishna mantra, Krishna does not reveal himself. Nor does Krishna reveal himself all at once. He gradually reveals his transcendental knowledge to us, and gradually enters into our memory and into our consciousness of experience. But when he realizes to be an eternal servitor of Krishna, when one has actually entered into one's spiritual identity, he loses interest in everything but Krishna's service. So always thinking of Krishna, devising means by which to spread the holy name of Krishna, he understands that his only business is in spreading the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Such a person is to be recognized as an Uttamadhikari, and his association should be immediately accepted according to the 6 processes, Tadati Pratigrinati. Indeed, the advanced Uttamadhikari Vaishnava should be accepted as a spiritual master. Whether we accept him as our Diksha Guru, as our Shiksha Guru, that's open to discussion, but he should be accepted as a spiritual master, such an advanced devotee. Everything one possesses should be offered to him, is enjoined that one should deliver whatever he has to the spiritual master. The brahmachari in particular is supposed to beg alms from others and offer them to the spiritual master. However, one should not imitate the behavior of an advanced devotee from Mahabhagavat without being self-realized, for by such imitation one will eventually become degraded. So this is beyond our level of influence. It may be within our level of concern. We are not the all-pervading controllers of Iskcon. Our opinions are not necessarily going to change everything at once. But we should understand that according to this, unless one was actually designated as an Uttamadhikari, of which no one has ever been, at least not presently, anyone is designated as an Uttamadhikari. There may be spiritual masters or devotees who are Uttamadhikaris, but no one has been officially designated with that title. And therefore, one of the major concerns should be the fact that presently those who do have influence within our society don't necessarily have there's not a complete system by which there is accountability. Because it is not the fault of those who are preaching necessarily, but because the GBC has not come up with a unified international plan to how to utilize everyone's resources in spreading Krishna consciousness. Therefore, it's created a vacuum in terms of what is the mission, what is the purpose, what is the vision to be fulfilled. Even if there was such a thing, it's not been communicated uniformly throughout the world. And therefore we haven't organized our society around that vision, around that purpose and the mission and the vision that we want to accomplish. Our society is not organized internationally, at least, around any unified purpose, mission, and vision. And therefore we can't apply it to all aspects of our society. Therefore, we're not so much interested, or we're not collectively utilizing all our resources towards any said mission, purpose, and vision. So that's left a lot of the resources more or less being utilized according to individuals' purposes, missions, and visions, which is not creating a unified society. But as we can see, practically speaking, after those leaders leave, sometimes those resources are, in terms of manpower, buildings, and other kinds of resources, are lost to the society. So in this verse, this Rupa Goswami advises the devotee to be intelligent enough to distinguish between the Kanistha Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. So it's our first business is to try to understand what the different levels of devotional service are. We have to develop a vision so we can understand how to engage in loving service to devotees. The vision is not meant to compete with each other or to criticize each other that you're on a lower platform or you're on a higher platform or you're on the same platform. It's to get a proper vision so we know how to engage our body, mind, and words in the service of the Vaishnavas appropriately. So one should also know his own position and not try to imitate a devotee on a higher platform. The tendency is that we usually overestimate ourselves and underestimate others. As Srila Prabhupada said, we generally think that an ordinary person is God, and God is an ordinary person. So our knowledge is meant to properly discriminate who's on what level of devotional service so we can engage in the loving exchanges with them appropriately. Now, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given some practical hints to the effect that an Uttama Adhikari Vaishnava can be recognized by his ability to convert many fallen souls to Vaishnavism. One should not become a spiritual master unless he has obtained the platform of Uttama Adhikari. So that does not mean that if one becomes a spiritual master, then automatically he attains the platform of Uttama Adhikari. So therefore Prabhupada writes that a neophyte Vaishnava or a Vaishnava situated on the intermediate platform can also accept disciples, but such disciples must be on the same platform and should be understood that they cannot advance very well toward the ultimate goal of life under his insufficient guidance. Therefore, a disciple should be careful to accept an Uttama Adhikari as a spiritual master. So does that mean that we should all go looking for the Uttama Adhikari spiritual master if we don't think we have one? That we should go on a search? No, that would be quite impractical, and that's not what Prabhupada's meaning here. It means that one should always work under the directions of the Uttama Adhikari. That at least within our society, officially we accept Srila Prabhupada as that Uttama Adhikari, and the instructions in his books, his conversations, his example, we take that as the direction of our lives. But we can't actually understand what Prabhupada said until we hear what Prabhupada says, try to assimilate the various instructions he's given from different perspectives, try to apply them with conviction in our devotional lives and in our society, and then skillfully try to develop these loving exchanges with the devotees and skillfully apply them to every aspect of our devotional service, Prabhupada's example and instructions, and therefore develop the same character of a pure devotee that he has. Now, if we think we're already there, or that someone other than Srila Prabhupada is there, and that we don't really have to understand things from Prabhupada's perspective, from his conviction, from his example, and then we find that we have many, many different viewpoints on everything. Therefore, unless we accept Srila Prabhupada actually in a practical way as an Uttama Adhikari, then we'd be hard-pressed. And even if someone in our society is an Uttama Adhikari, then surely he'd agree that Prabhupada was an Uttama Adhikari, because no one has manifested such exalted activities as Srila Prabhupada has. And therefore, where is our question of anyone being on an equal level or greater than Srila Prabhupada. Although we have many exalted great souls in our society who are doing fantastic service, but not to the level that Prabhupada displayed. Therefore, again, our first business, which is in the realm of our influence rather than just our concern, because we're not exactly capable of establishing right now either a purpose for Iskcon, for the whole society, or a mission for Iskcon, or a vision for what we're going to accomplish in the future and in some time for Iskcon, nor do we have the ability to communicate that throughout all of Iskcon, nor can we organize Iskcon around those purposes or apply it to every aspect of Iskcon. It's completely beyond our realm of influence. But we can influence our own lives. We can influence the devotees that we have around us, specifically by understanding who's on what level of devotional service, who to take shelter of the example and instructions, how to engage in what level of devotional service we're on, and appropriately engage in devotional service, loving exchanges with the other devotees, and try to carry on the missionary activities of devotional of Krishna consciousness as given to us by our acharyas. That's certainly within our realm of influence. And if we do that, then we'll actually become not only representatives of Srila Prabhupada, but we'll also glorify our initiating spiritual masters and our instructing spiritual masters, because that's what they're supposed to be instructing us about. And that's what they initiated us into, a devotional service, service with devotion, love, and steadiness. Then we'll certainly, our activities will certainly glorify our initiating gurus and our Shiksha gurus, and we'll become glorified instruments of Krishna also. Now, if there are some controversial subject matters, then we should very humbly try to resolve them either privately when appropriately or publicly when appropriately. But we should not, in the spirit of animosity, try to resolve problems publicly, certainly, and even privately. We should understand that we're conditioned souls, we're subject to error, and that our real business is not to fight with each other, but to try to be favorable to each other and try to help each other advance in devotional service appropriately. Sometimes that may mean that by not associating with devotees we might become in conflict with, but generally means that we should be prepared to compromise and not take titles, positions, authority, resources as the goal of our life. Nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitam vajagadish kamaye. We want to become liberated and be eligible for pure devotional service. Then we have to make sure that the resources that we have and that the resources of the society, to the best of our influence, are utilized strictly in the developing of devotional service and within the society, and the expansion of devotional service outside the society, to bring people into the society. The people will only be attracted to our society if we're engaged in loving exchanges with each other. People don't have to join a society to fight. There's enough societies that are fighting. This society should be the emblem of loving exchanges and service, not of animosity and conflict. Otherwise, we've missed the whole point. And even if it's not within our realm of influence to change everything, but certainly if we develop a loving attitude towards the devotees, even when we don't agree with them, we don't create an atmosphere of animosity, even if we don't agree with them, then still we maintain our loving exchanges, and people will become very much attracted by such a society, where people, when they even disagree, they're still in harmony with each other for the higher purposes. That's how such higher purposes are revealed, by staying fixed in the goal of our society of pure love for Krishna and giving that love for Krishna to others, rather than imposing our own particular viewpoints, our own particular agendas on the society. To have the higher purpose always in mind. So I'll stop there for a little second and ask if there's any questions.